We don't need your pathetic pension anymore." Those words hit me like a slap across the face. My son David stood there in my kitchen, waving a lottery ticket worth $33 million, looking at me like I was nothing more than garbage he needed to take out. His wife Julia didn't even bother looking up from her phone as she booked first-class flights to Paris. "Pack your bags, Lucy," she said with that fake sweet voice of hers. "Time for you to find your own little place somewhere else." I stood there in complete shock. The same kitchen where I cooked thousands of meals, watched their children grow up, where I grieved my husband Frank just 6 months earlier. Now they were throwing me out like yesterday's trash because they thought they'd hit the jackpot. David held up that lottery ticket like it was a golden crown. "Finally, we can live the life we deserve without any dead weight holding us back." Julia giggled and raised her champagne glass. "To our new life of freedom." I watched them celebrate, watched them plan my exit from their lives, watched them treat me like I was some kind of burden they'd finally found a way to dump. They thought they had won the lottery. They thought they were about to become millionaires. They thought they were finally free of the old woman who had sacrificed everything for them. What they didn't know was that in exactly 72 hours, I was going to destroy their perfect little fantasy. And when the truth came out, they were going to learn the most expensive lesson of their lives. But before I tell you how I brought down my own son and his greedy wife, I need you to hear the whole story. Because what happened next was so shocking, so unbelievable, that even I couldn't have predicted it myself. If you want to see how this story ends, make sure you subscribe, because you're not going to believe what my son did when he realized the truth. Have you ever trusted someone completely only to discover they were using you the entire time? Let me know in the comments, because my story is about to get a whole lot worse before it gets better. Let me back up 6 months to show you how I ended up in this nightmare. My husband Frank had just died of a sudden heart attack at 68 years old. One minute we were planning our retirement vacation to Hawaii, and the next minute I was planning his funeral. The grief hit me like a truck. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, couldn't even figure out how to work the remote control without Frank there to help me. I was drowning in loneliness in that big empty house where every corner reminded me of him. His coffee cup still sat on the kitchen counter. His reading glasses were still on the nightstand. I hadn't touched anything because touching his things made his death feel too real. Then my phone rang, and it was David. "Mom, I've been thinking about you all alone in that house. Why don't you come live with us? We need you here. The kids miss their grandma, and honestly, we could really use your help." Those words felt like a lifeline thrown to a drowning woman. Someone needed me. Someone wanted me around. After feeling invisible and useless for months, my son was telling me I mattered. I didn't even think twice. I called the real estate agent that same day and put Frank's house on the market. The house where we'd raised David, where we'd celebrated 30 years of marriage, where we'd planned to grow old together. I sold it for $312,000 and gave David every single penny of my profit, $87,000 to help with their mortgage payments. "Just until we get back on our feet," David promised me over the phone. "You're saving our lives, Mom. We'll never forget this." I packed my entire life into 10 boxes and moved into their guest bedroom. For the first time since Frank's funeral, I felt hopeful. Julia greeted me at the front door with the biggest smile and the warmest hug. "Lucy, you're a godsend," she said, and her voice sounded so genuine. "The kids are so excited to have Grandma here full-time." 8-year-old Emma ran up and hugged my legs. "Grandma Lucy, are you going to live with us forever?" I thought maybe. Just maybe. I was exactly where I belonged. Julia showed me around like I was an honored guest. "This is your room, your bathroom. Make yourself completely at home. We're family." She seemed so sweet, so grateful. "Honestly, we could really use your help around here. You know how crazy life gets with 2 kids and work and everything." I was happy to help. After months of feeling useless and broken, taking care of my family felt like healing. I thought I was moving in with people who loved me. I thought I was starting the next chapter of my life surrounded by the people who mattered most. I had no idea I was walking into a trap that would nearly destroy me. But that help Julia talked about quickly became something much darker. Within 2 weeks of moving in, I was running their entire household like an unpaid servant, while David and Julia lived like celebrities. Lucy, can you pick up Emma from school, grab groceries, make dinner for tonight, and clean the bathrooms before 5? I have hot yoga class, Julia would say, not even looking up from her phone. This wasn't a request. This was an order. Lucy, we're having friends over Saturday night for a dinner party. I need you to cook for 10 people, serve everything perfectly, and then maybe make yourself scarce afterward. It's just awkward having you around our friends, you know? I was working 12-hour days every single day, up at 6 to make breakfast and pack school lunches, driving kids to soccer practice and piano lessons, grocery shopping, meal prepping, deep cleaning bathrooms, doing everyone's laundry. Meanwhile, David and Julia were going to brunches with friends, getting couples massages at expensive spas, taking weekend trips to wine country. When I gently suggested that maybe they could hire some actual help since they seemed so busy, David laughed in my face. Why would we pay someone when you're already here doing everything? Besides, Mom, it keeps you busy. You were getting pretty depressed after Dad died. This is good for you. Good for me. Like I was some charity case they were helping instead of their free labor force. Then came the bill that made my stomach drop. David slid a piece of paper across the breakfast table one morning with a number written on it. $500. Mom, we've been thinking. You live here too. You eat our food. You use our electricity and water. It's only fair that you start contributing to the household expenses. $500 a month. From my pension, that was barely $1,100 total. After paying for my heart medication, my arthritis pills, and my basic necessities, that rent would leave me with almost nothing. When I hesitated, when I tried to explain that $500 was more than I could afford, Julia's mask finally slipped completely. It's not like you have anywhere else to go, Lucy. What other family wants a 70-year-old roommate? We're doing you a huge favor here, and frankly, you should be more grateful. I realized in that moment that I wasn't family anymore. I was a business opportunity. They were charging me rent to be their live-in maid, nanny, and cook. If you're watching this thinking it can't possibly get worse, make sure you hit that subscribe button, because you have no idea what I discovered about their real plan for me. The night that changed everything started like any other sleepless night since Frank died. I couldn't stop my mind from racing, so I decided to go downstairs and make some chamomile tea. Maybe that would help me sleep. As I walked down the hallway in my nightgown, I heard Julia's voice coming from the living room. She was on the phone with someone, and when I heard my name, I stopped dead in my tracks. Rebecca, you should see this setup we've got going, Julia was saying, and I could hear the smugness in her voice. David's mom pays us $500 in rent every month, does all our housework, watches our kids for free, and she's so pathetically grateful she never complains about anything. Julia started laughing like this was the funniest joke she'd ever told. My heart began pounding in my chest. It's honestly like having a live-in servant who pays us for the privilege of being here. She cooks, cleans, does our laundry, picks up the kids from school. We haven't paid for childcare or a housekeeper in months. I pressed myself against the wall, straining to hear every word. But Rebecca, the voice on the phone said, what happens when she gets too old to be useful, like when she can't clean anymore or starts getting sick? Oh my God, we've totally got that covered, Julia said, and her voice dropped to a conspiratorial whisper. We're already planning to convert the basement into a little studio apartment for her. Keep her close enough to still help around the house, but hidden away when we have company over. David thinks it's absolutely genius. My blood turned to ice. The basement. They were planning to stick me in the basement like some kind of unwanted pet. The best part is she gave us all her house money up front, Julia continued. $87,000 just handed over like a complete fool. She's completely trapped now. I mean, where else is a 70-year-old widow gonna go? What family wants to deal with that burden? Julia's laughter echoed through the house as I stood there in my nightgown, finally understanding the truth. I wasn't a beloved mother-in-law who they'd invited to live with them out of love. I wasn't a cherished grandmother helping with the children. I wasn't even family. I was a business scheme. A clever way to get free labor while collecting rent money. They had isolated me, taken my house money, and were planning to lock me away in their basement when I became too much trouble. These people weren't saving me from loneliness after Frank's death. They were farming me for profit, and they thought I was too old and too stupid to figure it out. I stood there listening to Julia plan my future like I was livestock. And I realized that everything I thought I knew about my son and his wife was a complete lie. The next morning, I woke up with a fire burning in my chest that I hadn't felt since Frank died. I drove to Murphy's Corner store and did something I hadn't done in months. I bought a lottery ticket. Frank always said Friday was our lucky day. We met on a Friday, David was born on a Friday, we bought our first house on a Friday. So I played Friday's numbers. Frank's birthday, our anniversary, David's birthday, and our old house number 47. I signed the back carefully with my full name, Lucy Marie Johnson, and tucked it into my wallet behind Frank's old driver's license. 3 days later, Julia was scrolling her phone during breakfast when she started screaming. Someone in our zip code won the Mega Millions. $33 million! They spent hours fantasizing about lottery money while I served them coffee like their personal waitress. We'd finally be free, David said. Free from stress, free from money problems, free from... He glanced at me but didn't finish the sentence. That evening, I was putting away groceries when I caught David rummaging through the junk drawer where I kept my wallet. Looking for something? I asked. He jumped like he'd been caught stealing. Just looking for the spare garage remote. But my wallet was sitting there slightly open. The zipper I always kept closed was halfway unzipped. David had been going through my personal belongings, and I had a terrible feeling I knew exactly what he'd been looking for. The next morning, David burst through the front door waving a lottery ticket like a victory flag. We won! We won the lottery! Julia screamed so loud the neighbor's dog started barking. $33 million. They were calling friends, posting on social media, spinning around the kitchen like maniacs. This is it, babe, David said, holding Julia's face. We're free. No more stress, no more struggling, no more... He stopped and looked at me. The celebration died. Mom, this changes everything, he said slowly. We don't need roommates anymore. We can afford our privacy. Julia crossed her arms with a cruel smirk. Without deadweight, time for you to find your own place, something small, more age-appropriate. David nodded, like this was perfectly reasonable. Nothing personal, Mom. We just need our space back. You understand, right? I smiled sweetly and said I understood completely. I told them how happy I was for their good fortune and how I'd start apartment hunting immediately. But inside, I was staring at that lottery ticket David was clutching. The same ticket that had been stolen from my wallet just 12 hours earlier. If you want to see how I destroyed these two thieves, subscribe right now because what happens next will shock you. That night, I made a phone call that would change everything. I dialed my old friend Giada, who used to work at the county clerk's office before she retired. Giada, I have a hypothetical question for you. If someone steals a lottery ticket that belongs to someone else and tries to claim the winnings, what happens legally? Oh honey, that's fraud. Major fraud. Like go to prison kind of fraud, Giada said without hesitation. The lottery ticket belongs to whoever's name is signed on the back. Period. End of story. My hands were shaking as I pulled out my phone and scrolled to my photos. There it was, the picture I'd taken of my lottery ticket right after I bought it. My signature was clear as day on the back, Lucy Marie Johnson, written in my careful handwriting. David had stolen my ticket. My $33 million winning ticket. And he was planning to commit fraud by claiming my money as his own. The next morning at breakfast, I played the perfect fool. "Oh my goodness, I'm still so excited about your big lottery win. Tell me, how do you actually claim all that money?" David's chest puffed up with pride as he explained the process, completely clueless that he was confessing to a felony. "It's actually pretty simple, Mom. We just drive to the state lottery office next Tuesday, show our identification, prove that we bought the winning ticket, and they cut us a check. Easy as that." Julia was already on her laptop booking consultations with plastic surgeons in Beverly Hills. "I'm thinking of a full mommy makeover," she said, scrolling through before and after photos. "New boobs, tummy tuck, maybe some lipo. When you're worth $33 million, you might as well look like it." I nodded and smiled and told them how amazing their new life was going to be. I asked innocent questions about their plans and listened to them describe exactly how they were going to spend my stolen money. All the while, I was letting them dig their graves deeper and deeper, one shovelful of lies at a time. A week later, I insisted on driving David and Julia to the state lottery office. "I want to be there for this amazing moment," I told them with my biggest smile. "This is history in the making." David and Julia dressed like they were walking the red carpet. Julia wore a designer dress she'd bought on credit, and David put on his most expensive suit. Julia even started live streaming as we walked toward the building. "Hey everyone, we're about to become multi-millionaires," she announced to her phone camera. $33 million, baby. Our lives are about to change forever." We walked into the lottery office, and David strutted up to the counter like he owned the place. He slapped that ticket down with complete confidence. "I'm here to claim the $33 million jackpot," he announced loud enough for everyone in the building to hear. The lottery official picked up the ticket and examined it carefully. Then her expression changed completely. "Sir, this ticket is signed by Lucy Marie Johnson on the back. Are you Lucy Marie Johnson?" David's face drained of all color in about 2 seconds. That's my mother. She's right here. She gave me the ticket." The official turned and looked directly at me. "Ma'am, did you give your son permission to claim this lottery ticket on your behalf?" I looked at David. Really looked at him. I saw the pure panic in his eyes, the sweat beading on his forehead, the way his hands were shaking. He was silently begging me with his eyes to go along with his lie. "No," I said clearly and loudly. "I never gave anyone permission to claim my lottery ticket." The entire room went dead silent. You could have heard a pin drop. The only sound was Julia's live stream still recording everything for her followers to see. "I bought that ticket with my own money 3 days ago," I continued. "My name is signed on the back because it's mine. This ticket was stolen from my wallet." The lottery official immediately called security. David started stammering excuses, but it was too late. Julia's live stream had captured everything. David and Julia were escorted out of the building while I calmly signed the paperwork to claim my $33 million. My son had just committed felony fraud on live television, and the whole world was watching. Julia's live stream footage spread like wildfire overnight. "Son steals mother's lottery ticket" was trending on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. The video had millions of views by morning. Julia lost every single one of her influencer sponsorship deals within 24 hours. Companies were emailing her to terminate contracts and demanding refunds for campaigns they'd already paid for. Her follower count dropped from 50,000 to 12,000 in a single day. David's company fired him immediately after the CEO saw the viral video of his employee attempting to commit fraud on live television. "We can't have someone with questionable ethics representing our firm," his boss told him over the phone. The district attorney's office called them both in for questioning about potential criminal charges for attempted fraud and theft. Suddenly, David and Julia needed expensive lawyers they couldn't afford. But here's the thing that destroyed them completely. Without my $500 pension payments, and without any lottery money coming in, their entire financial house of cards collapsed instantly. They couldn't make their mortgage payment. They had maxed out credit cards with over $40,000 in debt they'd been hiding from me. They had car payments on 2 luxury vehicles they'd bought with money they thought they were about to win. Julia had already charged $15,000 worth of designer clothes and plastic surgery consultations to her credit cards. David called me 17 times on the first day. I didn't answer a single call. Julia showed up at my lawyer's office the next morning, sobbing and begging me not to destroy the family. She kept saying I was being cruel and vindictive, that I should have more compassion for my own son. But I wasn't destroying anything. For the first time in months, I was finally saving myself. On day 3, David left me a voicemail that I'll never forget. His voice was completely broken. "Mom, please, you're all I have left. Julia's talking about leaving me. The house is going into foreclosure. I lost my job. I lost everything. I need help." The man who'd called my pension pathetic was now begging for my help. After a week of ignored calls and desperate voicemails, I finally agreed to meet David one last time. We met at a small coffee shop downtown, far from the fancy neighborhood where he used to live. The man who walked through that door looked nothing like the arrogant son who'd thrown me out just days earlier. No designer clothes, no cocky smirk, no expensive watch, just my son, broken and terrified. "I don't know how to fix this, Mom," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "I became someone terrible, someone I don't even recognize." "You became someone who uses people," I said quietly. "Someone who throws away the people who love them the moment they think they don't need them anymore. Just like you used me." David started crying. Real tears. Not the fake ones I'd seen him use to manipulate Julia. "I'm so sorry, Mom. I'm so sorry. I thought the money would solve everything, but it just turned me into a monster. I lost who I was supposed to be." I reached into my purse and slid an envelope across the table. David opened it and his eyes went wide. Inside was a check for $200,000. "This will cover your legal fees and keep you from losing the house for about 2 years, I said calmly. "But David, this is the last time I'm saving you. Never contact me again unless you've learned to value people over money." He stared at the check like he couldn't believe what he was seeing. "Why would you help me after everything I did to you? After I stole from you and threw you away like garbage?" "Because real mothers love their children even when they're deeply disappointed in them," I said. "But love doesn't mean enabling bad behavior, and it doesn't mean letting people walk all over you. Today I volunteer at the animal rescue shelter and host weekly dinners for other lonely widows who need friendship. I wake up every morning knowing that nobody can use me or discard me ever again." David lost Julia in the divorce and now works as a substitute teacher, slowly trying to rebuild his character one day at a time. He sends me birthday cards every year with handwritten apologies, and sometimes I think about calling him back. But some lessons can only be learned through real consequences. And sometimes the greatest gift you can give someone you love is letting them earn back what they threw away. If this story taught you anything about standing up for yourself, make sure you subscribe for more stories about people who refused to be victims.